first up we have the Hure. The Hure are basically your average human character. They don't have any particularly special traits, they don't have any like sort of real cultural identity, and they're very flexible in that department. There's nothing noteworthy about them, at least not in the general sense. When we get to the clans, there's a little bit of a distinction. We'll see it soon. We have the Midlander, which again is the basic form of Hure. They are educated, which means they are basically adept at everything, but also not special at anything. And we have the Highlanders, which are the more specialized of the two clans. These ones live in the high mountains, are mostly seen in Alamigo, which is a place which we will learn about later in the story. And I don't know if you can tell, but at least the male Highlanders don't have any eyebrows. That's a cultural thing, it's not something genetic. Okay, so that's the male here, and here's the female here. I don't know if you noticed, but the clans had little stats at the bottom. They don't mean anything, don't worry about them. So here we have the Midlander, and here's the Highlander, which is the tall GF version of the Hure, which is probably the better of the two in my opinion. No biases or anything. Alright. Well, moving on to the Ellison. So it mentions here that the Ellison were the original inhabitants of Eorzea, which is the region in which the game takes place, mostly. And it's a little bit weird because, again, Ellison are basically the elves from Tolkien, which are like analogous with white people. So it's a little bit weird that they're comparing those two and saying, oh, those are the original settlers. Anyways, so we have the Wildwood clan, which is the clan that inhabits the forest. They are the racist kind of elves. And we have the Duskwights, which is the clan that lives in the caves, which are analogous with the Dark Elves from D&D and Tolkien, I guess. I don't remember the Tolkien part of the elves too much. But yeah, the Duskwights dwell in the caves, and instead of being the racist elves, they are the victims of racism. Here we have the female Ellison, which is the race that I'm using in my current character right now. And here we have the Duskwight counterpart, which also looks very nice. The skin tone is optional. I think you can just use whatever skin tone you like with any clan. Next we have the little guys, the Lalafell. Everybody loves the Lalafell. The Lalafell are basically the jolly little guys. They're funny little guys, nothing else to them. They are friendly, they are jovial, everybody loves them. Now that I think about it, they're also little freaks, so that's another plus. They are not racist. And they have funny naming conventions. If you're gonna use a canon naming convention in this game, it's probably gonna be with a Lalafell. So first we have the Plainsfolk, which are the Lalafell that are mostly dedicated to farming. They are the ones with the sharp eyes. Also, it says here that they use their green and brown hair to blend with their surroundings and basically protect themselves from enemies like they're some kind of animal, which is just very funny to me. And here we have the Dunesfolk, which are the titular Lalafell you will see in most of the game. Most of the more important Lalafell in the game are Dunesfolk. And they have this very sad trait of all being greedy little fuckers who only care about money and will kill their own mother if it gives them a little bit extra money. They call it, you know, ingenious and such, but they're They're greedy fuckers. And here we have the male counterpart, which is not very different for Lalafell. Basically the same. The Dunes folk has a little ponytail, which is nice. It's not like mandatory, but I like how it looks. And next up we have the Mikote, which is the cat boys and cat girls. You may notice here that it says that individuals tend to lead solitary lifestyles, particularly males. This is an allusion to the fact that the original release of ff14 did not feature male Mikote. You could only choose the female variety. So they added this little lore reason to justify it. First off, we have the Seekers of the Sun, which are characterized by their sharp eyes and their culture, which is analogous with real-life lions. We will get into their naming convention later because it's a funny story, but for now just know that they're the ones that use the commas. So next up we have the Keepers of the Moon. These are the nocturnal type. They have the big round eyes and they have the sharp teeth. These are more matriarchal in nature, supposedly. The males are described as useless, louts, and their naming convention revolves around all sharing similar last names. So here we have the female Mikote, which are like the mascot race of the game. Here's the Seeker of the Sun and here's the Keeper of the Moon. And we can see their little tails in the back. You can give them lion tails if you want. Next up we have the Rudagen. That's right, it's pronounced Rudagen. These are the big types. They are big, they are brawny, even more so the male counterparts. They have the craziest names, and a lot of them are pirates. So first we have the Sea Wolves, which are the ones with the crazy names. They are unpronounceable. If you have a canon Rudagen name, everybody will hate you because they cannot pronounce your name. They are mostly pirates. And I just realized I've been saying it Rudagen instead of Rugaden. So there you go. I'm already saying it wrong. So that's the Sea Wolves. Next up we have the Hellsguard. These are the type that live in the mountains. They are generally considered the honest workers of the two clans. And their naming convention is a lot more normal. I'm noticing the part where it says that the mountains they inhabit are considered to be gates to the underworld and they consider themselves to be guardians of it, which is really fucking metal. I've never read that before. So anyways, the Hellsguard naming convention is like this. They are adjective noun. So, for example, blue fish or funny car. If you want to make your own canon ff14 name, they're probably the easiest one. So there we have the female and here's the male. As you can see, the male is a lot more beefier than the female. Even though the female is pretty buff, the male is way buffer. And here's the Hellsguard counterparts, which have slightly sharper eyebrows. Honestly, this might be the race with the least distinction between the two clans, because the color is optional. So next up we have the Aura. The Aura are considered the dragon people, which is an allegation which has already been disproven in lore. They are more akin to lizard or fish people. Those horns you see on their sides are not actually horns, they're actually their ears. They're made of cartilage, they're bendy. It's very strange, but that's what they decided to go for. We have the males here which look like Crash Bandicoot. Let's accept it. First we have the Ryan, which are the ones that use the Japanese naming convention. They use Japanese names. They're supposedly only found isolated in the mountain regions. We will see them in other places later in the story, but they mostly live in isolation in Othard, which is a continent in the far east. And we have the Sheila, which are the ones with the dark eyes and the sharp expressions. They are nomads, and they mostly live in the steppe, in plain areas, where they hunt, gather, and fight each other for fun. And their naming convention is based on Mongolians. And here we have the females, which is like half the size of a male version, which is very sad and kind of a coward move, and a lot of people criticize them for it. And here's the Sheila. And here we can see their little lizard tails, which are cute. I like them. They're fine. I guess they're fine. Let's not be so harsh on them. Next up we have the Hrothgar. Here we can see a live version of what they were doing with the Mikote, because again in the lore they are mentioning how they are rarely seen because they are a relatively new race. They were added in the 3rd expansion, and they also mention how the female version is even more rarely seen because they don't exist yet. Square Enix has been working on it for quite a while. They are by far and away the preferred race of gay men. The Helians are the ones that still use monarchy in their culture. They have queens, and their surnames are based on the name of their queens. Generally a preface for their surnames. They are based on Slavic names, and the Lost are basically the same, but as the name implies, these are Hrothgars who have for one reason or another lost their queen, and their names again reflect that. This time the name of the queen that was lost. Again, not much of a difference between the two clans in appearance. And last but not least, we have the bunnies, the Viera, which is another relatively new race, released at the same time as the Hrothgar. At least the female version was. The male version was released until the next expansion. So the main thing about Viera is that they have extremely long lifespans. They can live for hundreds of years. They are guardians of the forests. I'm just gonna go through the Reva and Vina tribes very quickly because they basically have the exact same culture. The only real difference is the forest they inhabit. They are both, you could say matriarchal, kind of. The male bunnies, they mostly stay in their city and protect the people, and the female version of it are the ones that are the hunter-gatherers, and they are the strong types. As you can see, the male bunnies are very, very femboy coded. And next we have the female Viera, which was the original Viera release. They're the sexy race, as you can see. They look like that in 12, so that's not new from this game. That's the exact same design they have in FF12. Most notably, you can see that they have no tails, unlike cat people, which is very, very sad. And lastly, the naming convention for Viera are based on their home village. And that's all of the races in FF14 as of now. Female Hrothgar coming soon? Or not. We'll see.